What is going on? Welcome back to Mindful Gains. I'm Bryce. Question: do you struggle with your anger? Did you maybe see a lot of yelling, a lot of fighting growing up? And it seems like you repeat those same patterns. Maybe you're trying your hardest to not do that, but it just seems like it just keeps coming out of you. Well, if that's you, you're in the right place because I'm going to share how I had to learn how to reparent myself so that I could develop a better relationship with my anger and show up in a more productive, constructive way. Let's get right into it. First off, I just want to say I'm not a mental health professional. What I'm sharing is strictly my experiences, my opinions, and tools that I have picked up along my journey that have worked for me. And I'm just sharing them with y'all. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence. Make sure you're doing your own research. If you're into personal development and at any time this video is really resonating with you, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. It really helps the video. But make sure you're subscribing so that you know when I drop more content just like this. Now, to give a little backstory, I used to deal with anger quite a bit, and it would really show up in my relationships. That's where I really noticed it. I wasn't somebody who just woke up angry all the time. I wasn't just going off, but I really dealt with it in my intimate relationships, relationships with close friends. Also, I used to take a lot of things personally. So the combination of all that was a recipe for disaster. And this is not to blame anybody or anything like that. When I grew up, I saw a lot of fussing and a lot of fighting. I was not exposed to how to have healthy conflict in a relationship. And what that does is really just teach me how to have unhealthy conflict, how to not be able to work through problems and be able to regulate myself and be able to figure out what it is I need in any particular moment. I had to learn how to do all this in my 30s. And it took me a long time to be able to understand what was going on and to get to the point that I'm at today. Now, one of the things that helped me get here was to reparent myself. It was to understand that inner child in me, that little boy that was hurt, that had seen a lot of nonsense growing up, and it really played into my wiring as I grew up as an adult. I didn't understand all this when I was younger, when I was in my late teens, in my 20s. I just knew I carried around a lot of anger, and I'm just trying to move forward through life. But when it started showing up in my relationships, I would act in ways that I really didn't want to act, but it was like I didn't have control over it. Like when I would get angry or triggered, it was like it would just take over me. It was almost like this pre-programmed way of responding to conflict, responding to not feeling heard, responding to just responding in a way that was not healthy. So eventually you get tired of this unhealthy pattern that pours out of you when you get mad. It's ruining relationships. And it's like, what is this? How do I work through this? Like I had quit drinking, but I still had this temper that would come up. And I always knew that, I saw nonsense growing up, but I didn't know how to work through that. I didn't know how to do better, if that makes sense. And going to therapy, and I stumbled across this type of therapy called IFS, which is internal family systems. And that kind of opened my eyes to some things. I never really got too deep into it, but it helped me understand that our personality is made up of a bunch of different parts. And some of those parts might include that 9-year-old boy that was hurt or that 15-year-old teenager. So when I would get mad at times, especially in relationships, that hurt little teenager or hurt little boy would take control of the steering wheel and drive the car. And I got tired of that. I had to figure out what is going on here. How do I become more in control of myself when I'm angry? The journey I've been on had led me to learning how to reparent myself. So what does reparenting mean? To me, it means learning a new way of operating, developing a new relationship with myself, one that is more in alignment with who I am today, and learning how to not let those subconscious reactions take over when I'm triggered. I know that is deep, but that's really what it is. And it requires a lot of work. So I had to learn how to validate my own emotions. So I lacked emotional control when I would get pissed off about something. And I had to learn how to talk to myself as if I was a parent when I was younger. Like I didn't get that when I was a kid. When I dealt with anger or sadness or confusion, no one ever set me down and was like, hey man, so I know you're feeling this kind of way and it's okay that you feel that way. And you go ahead and you feel that. Like I never got any of that. I had to try and I just dealt with whatever I was feeling with and just tucked it away and just kept growing. And that showed up in my adult life, not being able to work through that type of stuff. And I've learned why it is so valuable to be able to learn how to validate my own emotions. So, for example, this is a recent thing. I was at work the other day. I was giving a tour to some people. I work at a gym, and I was giving a tour of the gym, and the phone was ringing. And I said to one of my coworkers, "Hey, can y'all grab the phone real quick? Because I'm tied up over here with these members." And my coworker says, "I'm eating lunch," as they have their Tupperware in their hand, and they're around the phone. They're not eating lunch in the moment, but it really bothered me. And I was like, "You can't just grab the phone. Like I can't get to it right now." And I really had to sit and understand why this was bothering me so much. Thankfully, I've done enough work on myself to where I understand that I have to sit and maybe work through some things sometimes and understand, why did I get irritated? So that particular example, I was irritated because in that moment, I felt like somebody was not reciprocating the same energy that I would give them in any given instance. I felt like my request was not worthy enough of you to just grab the phone. Like you're not eating in this moment. Can you take the 7 seconds to answer the phone and put them on hold or do whatever it is you need to do? So it hit like an old wound of when I was a kid, of maybe I didn't feel like I was worthy, or maybe I didn't feel like my request was worthy enough to be recognized. And that's how this stuff kind of works. It usually is connected to something back when you're a kid. So I had to sit and work with, like, don't take it personally. And this particular coworker of mine has done other things in the past too that have irritated me. So it was like compiling. And those are things that I have to work on. I have to learn how to address these things in the moment and to set boundaries for myself. So that was just an example of when something happened and I had to like work through, why is my body having this reaction to it? Where is that coming from? And to not lash out at somebody, not to put them in their place, even though sometimes I want to do that, but it's understanding my own internal operating system. It's understanding my own irritation, understanding my own anger, my own frustration. That's what's key. And that's a big part of reparenting myself. It's learning how to work through my emotions and not let them work me. And I used to fall prey to that all the time. So learning to validate myself, learning to speak to myself like I'm almost a child, talking to that little kid. Hey man, it's all good that you feel angry, man. It's okay to be annoyed by that. Having that inner conversation with myself, that where most people might feel like they're crazy doing that, but it's, you have to like talk to that little kid. You got to give them the nurturing and the love that maybe you didn't get when you were actually a kid. So that's what that validating part is for me. That's what it means to me. And I know how important that is. Another side of like reparenting myself when it comes to anger is to understand what I need in any given situation. Now, there's physical needs and there's emotional needs. So those physical needs, like, all right, I know I need sleep, I need food, I need to exercise. You got to make sure you're taking care of yourself. So I try to do that. I think I do a good job of doing that. But I lack the ability of what my emotional needs were. Because again, when I was a kid, I never really had anybody sit down and tell me what that. I think a lot of us dealt with that. I grew up in the 90s. Ain't nobody sitting down talking about, hey, so what do you need in this moment? Or hey, what is it you're experiencing? Like I didn't get that. And now in my adult years, I'm realizing how pivotal that type of understanding of myself is. Like it's so important to be able to do that, especially if you're going to be in relationships. How can you expect somebody else to provide a need for you when you don't even know what you need? And that's what I dealt with. I didn't even know what I needed. I just know that I wasn't getting it. I didn't even realize I wasn't getting it. It was just I would have this reaction to whatever is missing on the surface. So I had to learn how to go below that surface and to figure out, all right, I'm sitting here having a conversation with maybe my partner at the time. And why am I getting bothered in this conversation? Oh, it's because I don't feel like I'm being heard. Or it's because because that same energy that I would give this person, I don't feel like it's being reciprocated to me. So that's triggering me. So that might be a loyalty type wound that I have. I'm loyal to people. I expect the same energy to be reciprocated to me. And when it's not, I get like, oh man, this person don't give a damn. So all these things, all these nuances, they all tie into each other. That's why I think learning to reparent ourselves is so important. it's not easy to do. I'm not sharing this to just put out there like, yo, this is easy to reparent yourself. Yeah, do this and do that and you're going to be good. Like, no, this shit messy and it requires a ton of awareness. It requires you to go places that are uncomfortable. It requires you to go places where you ain't going to want to go. But to understand yourself on a deeper level, if that's what your goal is, if you want to learn how to work with your anger and to understand where it's coming from so that you can respond in a more controlled type of way, this stuff is very important. And just remember that a lot of our behaviors stem from things that we've seen in the past. So that reparenting component is like going back and undoing that wiring. And if you're in your 30s or whatever age you are, you've been doing it for a long time. So it's going to take time to be able to undo that. So be gracious with yourself. Have patience with yourself. Understand that this thing is not easy to do. And if you're already on a journey of personal development, if you're already into self-improvement, you know that it's not easy to do. Relationships get ruined. Friendships get ruined as you're growing because you're trying to unlearn those patterns and those behaviors that don't serve you anymore. And it's messy trying to do that. It's almost like you're going back and giving that little version of you the love, the understanding, the patience, and the permission to be able to explore your emotions, feel your emotions, but also learn how to not let them drive the car and just be able to maintain a bigger sense of control of yourself. That's what I had to learn to do. It's been one of the most valuable lessons that I've had to pick up in my life. And I just wanted to make this video so that if anybody else out there deals with this, learning how to reparent yourself might be something you want to look into or not. It's up to you. If this video provided you with any value, please like, comment, subscribe, share this video, leave me comments to let me know what you thought about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you deal with this type of stuff. All right. I'll see you on the next video. I'm out. Peace.